This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, Phil is recording live Facebook at this time. And we will start. Welcome to the Bellevue City Council meeting. Today's date is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number 20-003 and due to the concerns related to the coronavirus, this City Council meeting will be conducted virtually. No member of the City Council is attending in person with the exception of the mayor. All other City Council members are appearing virtually, and this meeting is closed to the physical attendees of the public. The public can participate via Facebook Live, GoToMeeting, or by submitting concerns or questions to info.bellevue.net. I would ask that all public attending via GoMeeting please mute your microphones. Members of the public will only be allowed to speak during public hearings once opened up to the public, and I will call on members of the public one at a time to speak. Please be patient during this time as we conduct our second virtual meeting. We'd normally start with the Pledge of Allegiance invocation, but it's probably not a good idea to stand up and get out of everybody's microphone views. So we'll skip those. And item number 3, call to order. Susan, could you call us to order? Roll call.
Mr. Stinson?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Shannon?
Here.
Mr. Preister?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
And Ms. Welch?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A copy of that act is located on the chamber wall, and it is also can be found online under Nebraska Revised Statutes 84-1407 through 84-1414, as well as the Governor's Executive Order 20-03. The agenda for tonight's meeting can be found at bellevue.net under City Clerk Department tab. So if you need the agenda, you can find it there. All right, we will get started with the meeting. Item 5, approval of agenda, consent agenda, claims and advisory committee reports. I need approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Shannon, seconded by Preister to approve the agenda. Any questions on the agenda? Okay, please vote.
Mr. Stinson?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Mr. Preister?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
And Ms. Welch?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 5B, approval of the consent agenda. Items marked with an asterisk are approved where the item is unless otherwise removed. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, motion by Stinson, seconded by Preister to approve the consent agenda. Any questions?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Preister.
thank you, Mayor. I would just like to comment for people that are viewing this. We have asked questions prior to this. We have things on the consent agenda that have been approved in the budget financially. And at this point, it's after the fact, we're reapproving some items. So their questions have been answered. People have been discussing the agenda items and these. So anybody watching who thinks we're just pushing things through, they've gotten scrutiny and we're doing it in an expedient fashion following those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Any more questions or comments? Okay, please vote on the consent agenda.
Mr. Stinson?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Mr. Preister?
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Thank you. We have one special presentation. That's a proclamation declaring April 22nd, 2020 as Earth Day. And I'd like to read that proclamation from the City of Bellevue, Nebraska, Office of the Mayor. Earth Day Proclamation 2020. Whereas April 22nd, 2020 is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, the first event was marked by massive coast-to-coast rallies, and an estimated 22 million Americans took the streets, parks, and auditoriums to urge America to come together and clean up its air and water systems. The event inspired a worldwide response and call to action that resulted in the passage of landmark environmental laws around the globe. And whereas despite the event's amazing success, resulting decades of environmental progress, momentous challenges remain, including significant loss of biodiversity, climate change, and plastic pollution. Climate action is needed now more than ever to ensure a clean future for generations to come. And whereas we know if we choose to make the transitions needed to bend the curve of climate change, we can ensure a cleaner future for our children. Environmental education and action at all levels is key. Let us recognize the role that each of us can play to increase climate literacy and collectively act to conserve, protect, and appreciate our natural resources. And whereas on this observance of Earth Day, as your mayor, I ask you to join me in the pledge to take steps to a cleaner future by making a commitment to educating ourselves and others on pressing environmental issues and working as a community towards a sustainable future. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rusty Hike, have the distinct honor of proclaiming April 22nd, 2020 Earth Day in Bellevue, Nebraska. Thank you. Councilman Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. We have some Bellevue West students who are going to present, and also Jocelyn Stinn. I'm not sure, Jack, Leah, and Baden, which of you are going first, or was Jocelyn? Jack?
Yes, I will be going first. I am Jack Medden, and along with my teammates Baden Brumbaugh and Leah Larson, we are the leaders of Project Revitalize, the composting initiative at Bellevue West High School. Composting at Bellevue West officially began February 10th with the introduction of 2 composting stations in the school cafeteria. Each station had been assigned a supervisor to educate students on what items went into each bin to prevent any contamination within the composting bins. In addition to these supervisors, the Hillside Solutions staff had been present the entire first week to help students as well as see the progress firsthand. Composting was then taken in as a part of the Bellevue West culture from then on. Hillside Solutions weighed our compost, as well as our landfill trash, to calculate the percentage of waste diverted to compost. We started off at 44% waste diversion, and as the week went on, we maxed out at 59% diversion on the last 2 days. This indicates that over half the waste during Bellevue West lunches was composted and could be used to create new composted soil. Over the course of the next few weeks after the initial launch, we began experimenting with the stations, including the addition of a 3rd station in the Bellevue West Common area, which brought even more compostable waste. Then we began to take away our station supervisors and allowed the students to use the stations on their own, which worked perfectly. Students began looking at what they were throwing away and then knew which items were compostable and which was landfill. The process to incorporate composting wasn't hard. Once we began the education process with a few signs and an educational video, the students at Bellevue West knew what to do. The composting program has been an overwhelming success, and with the reintroduction of recycling, Bellevue West has taken the steps necessary to be a greener place. Our steps have been recognized by our own state FBLA organization with a 1st place ranking for our report about Project Revitalize at our state conference. Next, I will send it over to Leah to talk about the future of Project Revitalize.
While the roots of our project started in Bellevue West, our team has plans to introduce our system to the whole Bellevue School District so that all schools can participate. This will encourage students of all ages and staff members to learn how they can be more eco-conscious in their daily lives. Our project has proved itself more than capable of starting the much-needed conversation around sustainability. Once the entirety of Bellevue Public Schools is committed to composting, Project Revitalize is ambitious enough to introduce it to the program to surrounding companies. We figured that if a school district can implement a successful method of sustainable waste removal, then local businesses can easily do the same. While recent circumstances have put our plans on hold for the time being, we believe that our program's accomplishments so far show the power of young people. Our program would not be possible without help and cooperation of other student-led clubs in our school. We hope our project further encourages students to enact the change they wish to see in their communities. And if it's change they wish to see, Bellevue is the place that can give them the opportunity to do so. Now to Baden to talk about our project's ideas for the future.
The ideas we have pertaining to the future of Project Revitalize spreading throughout the district include establishing a similar program to Bellevue West in at least one middle school and one elementary school to show that the program can function effectively at these levels of school, similar to how Bellevue West proved a composting program can work at a high school. Establish high school leaders from potentially both high schools who want to work with their own particular schools. Similar to how elementary schools had high school mentors, we would like to see high schoolers helping to make these programs a possibility at the schools they were at in their previous years. And as we continue to tie in the community, set up community fundraisers to help secure some of the funds needed to make these programs possible, possibly even make it an annual event if this program were to get off the ground. As well, we would like to create fun/educational videos made by our own high school students that could be shown to all schools in the district to get students thinking about these types of programs. Now for ideas on the local business side, we've thought about reaching out to local business to see if any are interested right off the bat in giving this a shot or donating to make this type of stuff happen in our schools. For businesses, it's something as simple as purchasing a compostable water cup instead of a styrofoam one. Provide them with resources that we've used, such as our supplier and Hillside Solution, who services our compost. Also work with them to create more connections between high schoolers and the professional community, as well as making our community a more eco-conscious place, and encourage composting at home. All these ideas stem from the fact that this is something a lot less daunting than it seems. So by having opportunities for us as high schoolers to really drive the community and city to change and adapt with us, we can accomplish the goal of making our city more eco-conscious. We know that this is a goal that could potentially take a long time to accomplish, but by getting the conversation started, we can all begin thinking of ways to be more eco-friendly little by little, even in our own homes. It truly was not as difficult as we thought to make a program like this successful in a high school of 1,600 students. So I believe we, as a community, can make programs like Project Revitalize happen around Bellevue. And as I like to say, if elementary school kids can make this happen, why can't our community? Thank you all for your time.
Good job. Do we have any other speakers?
Mayor, what I find very interesting is these students took the initiative. They are business leaders or preparing to be. This is a program that they put together as a business model. So they had to raise the funds. They had to develop the program. They had to write the program. They had to make the contacts. They had to do everything. They came to the adults with their ideas, their program, and it's wonderful to see this leadership from such dynamic young people in our school. And we have, thank you, and we have one other young person, Jocelyn Stamp, who will talk to us a little bit about what she's been doing. Jocelyn?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Stamp, and I'm in sixth grade at Fairview Elementary School. On behalf of Green Bellevue, I'd like to express gratitude to the City Council for supporting Green Bellevue since 2010, when Mayor Gary Vixen established the original group. Through the continued support of the Bellevue City Council, Councilman Don Preister, and many volunteers, Green Bellevue has educated thousands of people on simple ways they can live a greener life. I personally have learned so much from participating in the annual Sarpy County Earth Day celebration for the past 2 years. For example, through the Trash and Fashion Show, I learned to create full outfits out of everyday items that people once used to throw away. My sister Maggie and I transformed a rainbow plastic tablecloth that was used for a birthday party into a dress. Normally, we would have thrown away that tablecloth away and forgot about it, but we all know that throwing away something doesn't mean it disappears. It piles up in the landfill. So for this experience of participating in the Trash and Fashion Show, my family has stopped buying plastic tablecloths and throwaway items for birthday parties and celebrations. This is just one of the easy ways I have learned to live a greener life from this event. Green Bellevue volunteers created the Earth Day motto, taking steps to a cleaner future, because we are not expecting everyone to be perfect. We just want to educate people on the way you can help. I share this belief that if we all try even a little, we can make a big impact. Every time we divert waste from a landfill, we are helping to save the planet. Whether it's a plastic tablecloth, an aluminum can, a plastic bottle, or a dry erase marker that was used once to throw away. Leadership is a key to making a difference. For instance, when I was in the 4th grade, I asked my school if they could start the Crayola recycling program, and they approved. It was scary to step up and be a leader, but I'm so glad that I did. For the past 2 years, I've collected more than 12,000 dried up markers, highlighters, and dry erase markers from schools, libraries, daycares, and 4-H clubs that have now been recycled into fuel or repurposed into wax compounds. This shows how stepping up as a leader to the community in new ways to recycle can make a huge impact. I encourage the City of Bellevue to partner with Green Bellevue during city cleanup days. Imagine how many tires, electronics, and styrofoam that we could divert from the landfill if the city and the Green Bellevue volunteers work together. The promotion of the cleanup days could include encouragement for residents to clean up parks and streets too. I am confident that if we give people accessible avenues and encouragement to take the steps, they will participate. I believe that through working together and taking a leadership role, the community, employees, and volunteers who are dedicated to making the city green can show the rest of the world how green a city can be. In the words of Rob Stewart, an activist who's dedicated his life for 37 years to stop people from killing sharks just for their fins. If you've got an opportunity to become a hero, so be a hero. And in my words, thank you for being a hero by continuing the support of Green Bellevue's Earth Day celebration. The world really needs all the leadership we can take to make my future generations and my generation to have a clean future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you for all of your leadership. And you guys are working on a very important issue. And you guys are heroes for Bellevue. So I want to make sure that you guys get acknowledged for that because it's very important and you're doing an awesome job. Great presentation as well. Mr. Preister, do you have anything to add, Councilman?
Mayor, you did a great job, and the students are our future. They are the leaders, and they will be someday taking our places, and we're in good hands when they do. Thank you.
Yes, we are. Any other comments from the council? All right, thanks again, guys. So we will move on to organizational matters, number 8, and we have none this evening. Approved citizen communication. We did not receive any requests for communication. Liquor licenses, there are no applications this week. Moves us to item number 11. 11A, ordinances for adoption, third reading. 11A, ordinance number 3990, request to amend section 5.26, City of Bellevue zoning ordinance regarding indoor and outdoor recreational facilities as permitted use in the FX zoning district. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Shannon, second by Councilman Preister. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Stinson,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Preister,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. Moves us to 11B, ordinance number 3991, request to amend sections 5.24 and 8.03, City of Bellevue zoning ordinance to allow for parking of semi-trailers tractors, or trucks exceeding 8 feet in width or 21 feet in length as a conditional use permit in BGH zoning district. And I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 3991.
Second.
Motion by Shannon, seconded by Cook. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Mr. Stinson,
yes,
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Preister,
yes,
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Ms. Welch.
yes,
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you and welcome back, Susan. Just
Thank
realized
you.
you've been on last time, so.
Yeah.
Hey, moving to 12A, ordinances for public hearing. 12A is ordinance number 3993. Jim, could you read the ordinance description, please?
Yes. Request to annex lots 1 through 3, Ramsey's Addition, lots 1 and 2, Sedlec Addition, lots 1 and 2, Sparlin Gardens, lots 1 through 4, Thompson Subdivision, lots 1 and 2, Thompson Subdivision 2, tax lot 4B3, tax lot 13A1A, tax lots 13A, 1B, and B2, lot 13A2, tax lot 13A4, tax lots 13B, 25, 26B, and 26A2, and tax lot 26A1, all located in the northeast quarter section 20, T149, R13E of the 6 PM, tax lot 11A, tax lot 12A, tax lot 12B1 and 5B2, tax lot 12B2B, tax lot 12B2C, tax lot 18A, tax lot 18B, lots 21, 22A, 22B, 23, and 24, all located in the northwest quarter section 20, T14N, R13E of the 6 PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, and all abutting county road right-of-ways, applicant City of Bellevue.
Thank you, Jim. Could you repeat that, please? No, I am joking, sorry. Okay, we will open that for a public hearing. So is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak regarding ordinance number 3993? And I will give you a few moments to get our attention.
oh, I thought you had set it up. No. Oh, okay.
Anyone in the audience that would like to speak regarding ordinance number 3993? Okay, nobody on Facebook, nobody on GoToMeeting, so I will close the public hearing on ordinance number 3993. That third reading will be held May 5th, 2020. Moving on to 12B, ordinance number 3994. Jim, could you read that ordinance, please?
Request to annex lots 1 through 6, Block 3, Fort Crook City, lots 20 through 26, Block 3, Fort Crook City, Lot 27, Block 3, Fort Crook City, tax lot 5B, tax lots 13 and 14, east of Highway 75, and tax lot 15, all located in the southeast quarter of Section 3, T13N, R13E of the 6 PM, tax lot A, lot 4 through 10, block 1, Zurcher subdivision, all located in the northwest quarter section of Section 2, T13N, R13E of the 6 PM, tax lot C, lots 1 through 11, block 1, Fort Crook City, lots 1 through 12, block 4, Fort Crook City, all located in the southwest quarter section 2, T13N, R13E of the 6 PM, lots 1 through 13, Zurcher's first addition to Fort Crook City, lots 4 through 15. Block 2, Zurcher subdivision, and lots 6 through 10. Block 3, Zurcher subdivision, all located in the northeast quarter section of Section 3, T13 and R13E of the 6 PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, and all of Button County Road right-of-ways, applicant City of Bellevue.
All right, thanks again, Jim. Okay, I'll open up the public hearing for ordinance number 3994. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak regarding ordinance number 3994? And again, I'll give you a few moments to get our attention. Looking for anyone that wants to talk regarding ordinance number 3994 in the public.
Nothing on Facebook.
So nothing on Facebook and nothing on GoToMeeting that I see. So I will close the public hearing on ordinance number 3994. The third reading will be held May 5th, 2020 for that ordinance.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. On both of these annexations, it may be useful if we get some information about how the process unfolds. We have had a couple of letters, particularly from the first annexation package, from people about opposing it, not wanting to pay additional taxes, not seeing it as something that they could even have influence to. But there is a lengthy process that has unfolded to even get us to this point. I think it may be useful to at least go through that process and how many people have been involved to even get here. Perhaps Ms. Palm could do that, or someone else.
Sure, we will. We'll get you some additional information. Mark, are you on board and take note of that?
I am.
Okay, and you understand what he's looking for?
Well,
Mayor, jump in. We can certainly get something together like we did on the last one regarding impacts and what we've done, and have all those conversations and send it around to the council.
Well, what I was asking really is just an outline of the process. We've had, this is now the second public hearing. We've been before the Planning Commission. They did a public hearing. Before it ever got to the Planning Commission, each of the departments had to look at it. We had to do financial planning. We had to do public works planning. Basically, there's a lengthy process to look at every aspect of every annexation. So when someone may think that it's a done deal by the time it gets to the council, the only reason it may look that way is because every legal aspect, every part of the process has been scrutinized, or it would never get to this point. So those, and I think I just covered most of it, but I was just looking at the process and how much is involved to even get to this point for the public to understand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yep. We will get that out. Okay. Moving on to ordinance 13, ordinances for introduction, first reading. We have none. Item 14, public hearing on matters other than ordinances. We have 14A, request for a conditional use permit for Lot 1, Ashford Hollow. That's Ashford Hollow North, located in the northwest quarter of Section 32 and the southwest quarter of Section 29, all in Township 14 North, Range 13 East of the 6th PM, Sarpy County, Nebraska, for the purpose of a self-storage facility. Applicant, Stevens and Smith Construction Company. General location is 11203 South 48th Street. So I will open the public hearing for anyone here wishing to speak regarding the conditional use permit, and I will ask if any representatives from Stevens and Smith are want to talk first?
Yes, good evening. My name is Lance Jordan with Stevens and Smith. I'm chairman. Also in this meeting is our engineer, Doug Kellner from TD Square, and Brett Richard, president of RIP, which is a subsidiary of our company. Basically, we are proposing that we put in 9 buildings, single-story buildings. This is our 5th project that we've built them and owned them in the last 40 plus years. We have 3 in Lincoln, and we have 1 up here in Omaha proper, and then we're of course wanting to do this one. At the meeting last month, there was some of the neighbors presented some concerns. I guess I'd like to take a minute to kind of address a 3 of these concerns. One I heard quite often was about lighting of the buildings, and afraid that the light would bleed into their yards. And what traditionally we've done in our projects is that we have one 30-watt LED fixture at the end of each building on the gabled end. This 30 watts is pretty much equivalent to about a 150-watt incandescent light. They're mounted about 11 foot off the paving on the gable end, and then down the sides of the buildings through the 30-foot alleyway or between the buildings, we have about every 50 foot we have a 20-watt LED fixture. These are all surface mounted onto the building. They're about 50 foot apart, and they basically, everything is shielded so that they're basically shining down on the drives. No exterior fixture exceeds 3,000 lumens, and none will bleed into or past the property line into the neighbor's area. Plus I'm confident that if in fact you do allow us to do this, when we go in for permits, the permits will be, our lighting system or schedule will be reviewed by the Bellevue Permits and Inspections to make certain that there's no light pollution or anything that bleeds over into the adjacent property. Also, I heard at that last month's meeting with some concerns about the tree removal and the piles of the trees and the way they disposed of them, which was they were burnt. And I brought it up then, and I guess I want to bring it up now, that we really did not have anything to do with the disposal of the trees other than when we purchased the property in our contract. Our purchase agreement was that the property should be ready for development, which involved removing the trees and removing any stumps that were greater than 12 inches in diameter. The previous property owner is the one that elected to obtain a burn permit and piled up the trees that were cut down and burn them. So we really didn't have anything to do with that, and how that went about. That was kind of outside of our realm of responsibility. And then the last concern that I heard, or there were some other ones, of course, and I'm sure they'll come about, but the last concern was about some of the trash that seems to be congregating at the northwest corner of the property next 48th Street. Because the land's undeveloped, people, I guess, see that that's probably a good place to throw off their lawn debris. And, it appears when we're cleaning it up that maybe there was some companies that threw in landscape materials and that type of thing. We started cleaning it up about 2 weeks ago. I guess in line with Earth Day, there was a lot more debris than I guess we anticipated. We we tried to separate everything in the recyclables. So we had a couple backhoes and skid steer, and that type of thing that went up there, and we separated the lumber and the concrete to go to the recyclers. Some of the, not the lumber so much, but then there was quite a bit of tree branches and that stuff that people had cleaned their yard and hauled off there. So we were going to have that cleaned up by last Friday. It is, if you were to drive by there, it is all separated in piles. But because of that heavy, wet snow last week, we weren't able to get it out of there. So we have, I have scheduled McCardle excavating out of Elkhorn. They'll be in there by Friday to, take everything, take them to the recyclers and to the landfill. So that was 3 of the main complaints that I heard that I guess I had any, potentially had any influence in. So I guess that's what I would like to, if you guys have any questions, obviously, I will do my best to answer them.
Okay, Lance, would you state your address, your residential address for the record, please?
I live at 1330 West Ridge Way, which is in Ashland, Nebraska.
Thank you. And then is there anybody else that wants to speak for the development, or we'll just go to the public hearing? So the public hearing is open. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak regarding the request for the conditional use permit for Lot 1 Ashford Hollow, sorry. Anyone in the public?
We do have a comment from Bruce Yoder. He says, "Thank you for taking the neighborhood concerns into account from the Planning Commission on the lighting."
Everyone hear that? Okay. Any other questions? Anybody in the public before I close the public hearing that would like to speak regarding conditional use permit for Lot 1 Ashford Hollow?
Nothing else.
All right, nothing on Facebook. I don't see anybody on GoToMeeting, so I will close the public hearing. And is there any council members Councilman Cook?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of questions and comments for Mr. Jordan. Is all the storage going to be conducted inside the buildings? There will be nothing outside?
That is correct. They're all enclosed buildings.
Okay, it was part of the property in the floodplain, and how's that going to be addressed?
Well, we retained, TD Square to do the engineering on it, but it works. My understanding is the property itself is about 8 acres that we purchased, but only about 4 acres of that approximately is buildable. So we will build on the 4 acres that we can, and then the other acres, which is clear to the east side of the property, will just be floodplain type property. We can't really do anything with that.
Would you also explain the buffer that you're going to create?
Okay, I think there's a 40-foot buffer or property line buffer, and then we have another, I want to say it's 15 or 20 foot where we do the landscaping. We submitted, we'll do a berm, then this will run on the south side of the property, and then on the west side along 48th Street, we will do a berm, and then we submitted a landscaping plan with various trees of various heights and stuff that was designed by a landscape architect. And then in addition to that, we will have a minimum of a 6-foot high, privacy fence that will somewhat secure or impede the view of the property there. So.
Thank you.
If I might, this is Tammy Palm, planning manager. One of the things I would point out is the landscaping will be outside of the privacy fence. So it'll actually be the plantings and the shrubbery that would be outside of the fence. So that's what will be in view directly of the neighbors.
Mayor, Councilman Shannon,
Yep. Go ahead.
I'd like to get a motion on the floor so that we can have this discussion properly. So I'm going to make a motion that we disapprove continuous use permit 1812-04.
Second.
Can I interrupt for just a second, Mayor? Can we have a positive motion, just because otherwise you're working in a negative? I think it'd be easier to have a motion to approve and then a second to approve, and then if you want to vote to not approve it, then you would vote no. It's just so you're not working in the negative, but you can do it however you want, Councilman Shannon. That would just be my recommendation.
Where you at, Councilman Shannon? Leave it the same, or?
I'm fine with the motion as it is, but if Bree would prefer, I will make a motion to approve with an understanding that I plan to vote against this. This is the wrong project in the wrong place in our town.
I'll second the motion, and when it's appropriate, I'd like to comment.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Shannon, second by Preister. Now we're open for discussion. So Councilman Cook?
Thank you, Mayor. I personally would prefer to have this continue to our May 5th meeting because of some issues and questions that I would like to get further addressed between now and then. So I guess, so thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion, comments? Councilman Stinson?
Yeah, my concern is the closeness of those three properties that are closest to 48th. Looks like this goes right up against their property line. And looking at the emails that we obtained from those people, they're not for this. It looks like they'll be looking right out their backyard, right into this storage facility and everything. How much of a buffer from their fence lines is there going to be before they're actually right on top of that storage facility? Because it looks like it goes right up against it.
Tammy, are you still on? Can you?
Yes, I can address that. So as previously stated, there's a minimum 40-foot buffer yard with trees and plantings that is required. Bree kind of has her arrow to it right now. That's 40 feet. And then the nearest building is 25 feet beyond that. So that's how much spacing is there on that south side that abuts the residential district.
I know personally,
Okay,
I would
thank
not
you.
want to sit up on my deck and look at the back of a storage facility. So I'm leaning towards not supporting this at all. Thank you.
We have any other comments? Tammy, I actually have a question on the, how does that fit into our future planning?
So the property is currently zoned flex, which does allow for heavier commercial light industrial uses by right. A little bit of history: when the developer first came in for Ashford Hollow North, this zoning for this property was approved at the same time that the zoning for the subdivision was done also. So the flex zoning is already there. So there's a number of uses that could go there by right. Part of what the developer did when he requested the flex zoning on this lot was they did do a zoning agreement. Typically, storage units would be a permitted use in the flex zoning. When the zoning agreement was approved back in 2014, it stated that some of the traditional permitted uses would be allowed only as conditional uses. This was one of those uses that was transferred into the conditional use requirement, but the flex zoning is there. So our comp plan does reflect the flex zoning as it was previously approved by City Council.
Okay, I guess I'm, since I've been here for the year and a half, our vision for that corridor, that Tapio Trail corridor, kind of aligns up with what Papillion's done, and that's a recreational corridor run along that Papio Creek, connecting a lot of different areas. And it just, to me, long range vision would seem to block that or make that a little more difficult as well. So I guess I'm just having an issue as far as in that long range planning. It doesn't sound like we have any plans if regarding that.
It was previously, if I remember correctly, previously in our comp plan, it was just showed as agricultural ground or open space. But again, last time we amended the comp plan several years ago, or one of the updates that we did, we changed it based on the zoning that was previously approved by City Council. So this particular zoning was approved back in December of 2014. And again, that was done with the original Ashford Hollow North development.
I just see a difference of administrations and visions from different people as they come in and out of office. That's kind of a tough situation. Councilman Preister?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you recognizing me. I appreciate that Mr. Jordan has a very good project here. I just think it's the wrong location. We're going to be putting more roofs and more concrete right next to the Papio Creek. We're at the bottom of the floodplain from the whole metro area. We see floods and we have to address them probably more than anyone else in the floodplain. We need to be sure that we have spillover and bare ground where some of that excess rain can go into. This is a good project, but in my view, not a good location next to the creek, in addition to the neighbors who have invested in nice houses, not really wanting an industrial look out their backyard or their area. But my biggest concern remains, we need to be responsible in what we put in next to our floodways and floodplain, and to have 8 buildings with roofs that are impermeable and concrete all around it. We're going to have about 4 more acres where water cannot sink in an area that should be like other river and creek areas where you have absorption and spillway. So because of that, it's no affront to Mr. Jordan. I think he's put a lot of time in it. I think planning has, but I just think a good project could go to a different location. Therefore, I'm not going to support, I will support the motion as it's been made to disapprove.
The motion was actually made to approve, so I just want to make sure that's clear.
Good. We did.
Could I speak to Mr. Preister's comments just for a moment? This is Tammy Palm again, Planning Manager.
Yes.
Just want to point out, this project was delayed about a year because the applicant did go through preliminary approval with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer and the NRD. So both of those entities that deal with flood control did submit preliminary approvals or give their stamp of preliminary approval to the project. So that is part of the process that we required them to go through.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Palm, could you tell me what happened to the project we approved for this site about 2 years ago? It was a landscape project that was going in there, and I kept waiting for it. They would not have filled the ground. It was more, I think, trees and rocks and things that would be sold to the public.
I can't speak to what the previous owner, what happened. Obviously, he decided not to move through with the development. He has a location out in Elkhorn. This was going to be a second business location for him. He did put the property up for sale, and the current applicant has since purchased the property.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple questions that came in, or a question that came in on Facebook, but I just want to remind everybody the public hearing is closed. So, Councilwoman Welch.
Mr. Mayor, and maybe Bree, I think part of it is we don't have enough information to be able to make a good decisions. I mean, this company, you know, Mr. Jordan's company has done a lot of work to get to this point. And I feel like we as a council, as a city, don't necessarily want to deny what a company wants to do, yet we want to do what's in the best interest of the city. So, you know, like what Mr. Cook said, is there a way that we can say, can we continue this and have further discussions over the next couple of weeks before we actually make a decision and take all things into consideration?
Yes, there could be a motion made. There could be a motion made to table it until the May 5th meeting or the meeting at the end of May, if that's something that somebody wishes to do.
I'd like to make the motion that we table this till May 5th so that we can gather more information versus just denying it because we don't like what it's doing or how it looks, or, you know, I think we just need more information before we can make a true decision on this.
Mayor, could I make a suggestion? Again, this is Tammy Palm. If council was,
Kathy, you made a motion, right?
I'll second that motion.
There's already a motion on the table. She can't.
She can make a motion and then we can talk about it, Pat, for discussion.
It's got a motion by Kathy, seconded by Cook to table it. So I'm going to open back up for discussion. Tammy?
if the city council does vote to continue this, I guess what I would recommend is if we could be specific and give feedback to the developer about what additional information you would like to see. One of the things may be if they can provide elevations of the structures. That's one thing they have not provided. Obviously, those structures would have to meet design standards. But again, if there are things like that that you would like to see, I would just suggest we be specific so that we can get that to the city council members.
So is there anything with the council or Tammy, is there anything that they could add that would, I guess, change your minds as far as how you're thinking? Is there, to the council members, is there anything that you would like specifically to see? Councilman Preister.
Mayor, that's just what I was going to highlight. I don't know what will be different between now and the next meeting. So if there are specific things that people would like to see, I have not heard them at this point. If there are, then let's find them and certainly let's wait. But if we're going to be in the same position and we're just delaying it, I don't see the point. So I hope to hear of any specific things that people would like to get answered. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Cook, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Tammy, I just would have a question. What other types of development could go into this site just with the current zoning? Could a 24-hour gas station go there?
Yes, the flex zoning would allow for a convenience store. It would also allow for warehouse or wholesale stores. Would also allow for certain retail as far as health club, exercise, fitness, dry cleaning facility, locksmith, call center, printing and publishing business. Those are a few of the things that could go in there by right. The zoning agreement states that some of the conditional use permits would be a fertilizer transmission line, car wash, facility for building construction, railroad through and spur tracks, kennels, recycling facility, manufacturing plants, manufacturing of light sheet metal, highway maintenance yard or building construction and contractor storage yard.
Those can all go in there without a conditional use permit. Those can all be allowed, right? Is that what you're saying?
The first part of the list that I read, it could be permitted by right, like the convenience store, the printing shop, the warehouse and wholesale centers. Those could all go in by right. Some of the conditional use permits would be car wash, the railroad tracks, kennels, manufacturing plants, highway maintenance yard, things like that.
All right.
Could some of those buildings be two-story?
Yes, they could.
Could they be beyond that?
Yeah, in the flex zone, there's no restriction for building height other than limited by gross floor area ratio, which they have enough property that could be pretty tall.
So like a warehouse could go in there and be possibly 2 or 3 stories tall?
That's correct. And that could be by right, by permitted use.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilwoman Welch?
You know, that's part of this. I think if we had a better idea of what the comprehensive plan around there is looking at, and again, that's just information. A lot of this information we're getting tonight is, I know I called Tammy earlier, but a lot of this information we're getting tonight is like the first time we've heard of this. And I think we could have some pretty good discussions about pros and cons of this and just have more information to make a better decision. I'm not saying that we maybe don't deny it, but I think we just don't have enough good information to be able to make that decision one way or the other. That's why I asked for the continuance.
Okay, Councilman Shannon, did you have your hand up?
My mic went off, sorry. One of the things I would be looking for would be for some kind of an engineering report talking to the addition of that much hard surface and how much water that's going to generate coming at this housing project and how that's going to be dealt with. I have not seen anything like that that would explain, how 4 acres of hard surface is going to impact the water in that areas and the runoff during rainstorms and things like that. And I think those are important considerations. There's quite a bit of elevation change in here.
I do have all the engineering reports that are available, everything that went to the Army Corps of Engineers and NRD. We typically don't put that out in a staff report because it's very technical, but if any city council members want that, I can get that to them.
Any other questions at this time? Bree?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Tammy, those were the reports then that were approved by the NRD and the Corps of Engineers, is that correct? So they've already reviewed those plans and then they didn't see any issue with this?
Correct. So basically the developer's engineer had to submit preliminary plans as far as construction and drainage that had to go through those 2 entities for preliminary approval. Our Public Works Engineering Department reviewed them as well.
Bree, are we able to vote on, we need to vote on the table first, or how do you?
Yeah, so what I think needs to happen
with?
first. Yeah, so Kathy made the motion to table and I can't remember who seconded it, but it was seconded. So we would need to vote on that. So if you vote yes, then it will be tabled to the next meeting, May 5th. If you vote no, then it will not be tabled. And then we will take up Mr. Shannon's votes on whether to approve or deny it tonight.
Okay. Councilman Prancer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Robbins. One of the other issues that were noted by the neighbors was the driveway being all the way, or the entryway being all the way to the south, close to the residence. I don't know what flexibility there is to move that a little farther to the north toward the creek to not be so close to the neighbors. But I know that was one of the issues and I don't know if that was discussed. So I'll offer that. Thank you.
Councilman Preister, if I might, if I could address that. That driveway location was put there because it will line up with driveway stub out or access stub out that is to the west of 48th Street. So that's why that location is there. 48th Street is a county right of way currently, so they reviewed these plans as well.
And Tammy,
Okay.
did we had approval? I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Tammy, we had approval from the Sarpy County Planning Commission and also our own Planning Commission on this, correct?
No, it doesn't go through Sarpy County Planning Commission. Sarpy County Public Works Department, their engineers look at these applications as well. Again, since 48th Street is a county right-of-way currently, it just went through our planning commission for a public hearing and vote.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Stetson.
In reference to the motion to table, I just don't see what other information we're going to get by waiting 2 weeks. I would just soon see that we take a vote tonight on this.
Okay, any other comments? Councilman Shannon.
I would also agree with Mr. Stenson and say that we vote no on the motion to table and that we disapprove it tonight.
Any other comments, questions? All right, I'm going to go to the vote by Councilwoman Welch, and I believe that was seconded by Councilman Cook to table. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, Shirley or Susan, would you take that vote on the tabling it?
Yep. Mr. Stinson,
No.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
No.
Mr. Preister,
No.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Mayor votes no on that.
Motion denied.
So now we'll go to Mr. Shannon's motion to approve item 14A. He wants to vote no to, but we want a positive motion. So Mr. Shannon's motion's on the floor now.
Motion was made by Councilman Shannon to approve, although he's indicated he's voting no, and it was seconded by Councilman Preister.
Who's also voting no.
So do I need to open that up for any comment? Is there any comments or questions again? Okay, please vote.
Mr. Stinson,
No.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
No.
Mr. Preister,
No.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
And looks like a tie, so the mayor votes no on that one as well.
Motion denied.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 15, resolutions, we have none. Item 16, current business. 16B, accept and authorize the mayor to sign the low proposal for the demo of 7952 South 25th Street and authorize funding from the Community Betterment Fund. And do I have a motion for that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
I'll make a
Councilwoman
motion
Welch?
that we approve the mayor to sign the addendum or the ordinance.
I'll
Second.
second.
Motion by Welch, seconded by Preister.
Mayor,
Comments, questions?
this is Jim. Can I just, I know we've got two of these motions that'll come through, but the use of the Community Betterment Fund, we want the option to be able to use this out of our general fund too. The ability to use general fund instead of betterment. We don't want to pin it in just to the betterment.
And my second was not on the betterment, Ms. Welch, but we'll leave finance make the choice of what fund they take it from. Would your motion be then just to approve it?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Councilman Preister, I assume you'll re-second that?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so motion to approve the mayor to sign the low proposal for demo of 7952 South 25th Street and authorize funding to come from where it needs to come from, out of the city funds. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Mr. Stinson,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Preister,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. 16E is accept and authorize mayor to sign the low proposal for the demo of the barn at 3515 Schneekloth Road and authorize funding from the Community Betterment Fund. And I need a motion, keeping in mind that I want to make that clarification as we did on the last one. Councilman
I'll
Preister?
make a motion to approve 16E.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Councilman
I did.
Stinson.
Councilman Stinson. So motion by
Mr.
Stinson, second by Preister, and I think we need to clarify that those funds.
Yes, the funds are to be determined by the finance department, correct, Mr. Stinson?
Yes.
Okay, is that good, Bree? Okay.
Yes.
So we have a motion by Stinson, second by Preister to authorize the mayor to sign the low proposal for the demo of the barn at 3515 Schneekloth Road and authorize funding from whatever fund the finance director needs it to come from. Any questions? Please vote.
Mr. Stinson,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Preister,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Thank
Motion
you.
carried. Thank you.
Thank you. 16F, accept and authorize the mayor to sign the low proposal for the demo of lots 1, 2, and 3 Paradise Park and authorize funding from the Community Betterment Fund. Need a motion? Councilman Preister?
Thank you, Mayor. If this is the appropriate fund, then I will leave it in the motion. If it's not, somebody please advise me. But I will make the motion to approve 16F as it has been presented, including the funding from Community Betterment.
I'll
Just
second that.
Make the change to the general fund also, or to whatever fund finance picks from.
Okay, we will take it from the most appropriate fund or funds, since it's such a large amount, and hopefully then get reimbursed from FEMA.
I'll second that.
We could add
Mr. Mayor.
in for your information on FEMA. FEMA's already approved their portion. FEMA's approved their portion. The city will have about is it 12.5%?
That's correct, 12.5%, which is roughly 153,000, give or take.
Right. So, and I believe that fund has already been deposited, so we'll be able to use that out of wherever Rich has got it. So.
Well, that's wonderful. Then we don't even have to use our money. Most of it.
Okay, motion by Preister, seconded by Welch to approve the mayor to sign the low proposal for the demo of lots 1, 2, and 3 Paradise Lake and authorizing the funding to come from city funds chosen by the finance director. Councilman Shannon.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that a lien will be placed on the property and we may be spending between 135 and 150,000 out of our own money. And that's the maximum obligation that the city's taking on right now because the rest of the money's coming from elsewhere, but that we have the opportunity to get that money back for the citizens of Bellevue once the property is sold and we collect back on that lien. And also FEMA and NEMA are looking to get paid back as well at that time.
Okay, Bree?
Yeah, that's a really good clarification, Councilman Shannon. So as soon as the demos are done, the bid is approved tonight, then we would ask the landowner to reimburse. And then if that doesn't happen, then yes, we are required to place a lien on the land. And any funds that we would recoup, we would pay back FEMA their portions, NEMA, and then reimburse ourselves.
Okay, any other questions?
Hopefully not in that order. I say we take our money first.
Councilwoman Welch.
And Bree, that would happen if we ask the current owner to reimburse us. If he doesn't, the lien is filed, and then if the property is defaulted on or purchased by someone else, that's how we get reimbursed, correct?
It's a little more complicated than that. They would have the opportunity, the landowner would have the opportunity to pay first. If they don't pay, then the Board of Equalization, the City Council sitting in this Board of Equalization would put the lien on the land. And then if it's not paid, there's different options regarding how to collect that, that money.
Thank you for that clarification.
Councilman Cook.
A quick question. How soon do we think this will start, where the citizens could expect it to start, where there'll be equipment down there knocking things down?
I spoke with, this is Mike Christensen, building official. I spoke with Anderson Excavation today. They said they're all ready to go as soon as they get the contract in hand. They did bring up the NESAP 10-day waiting period. I talked to Doug Gillespie from the state of Nebraska. They're comfortable with waiving that 10 days. So as soon as they get the contract in hand, they should be able to move equipment down there ASAP, possibly get started as early as the beginning of next week.
Thank you. Any other
And then,
questions?
Jim, just one more clarification on this. I also understand that there's going to be some reductions to the 1.2 million in that several of these properties have already been demoed and are gone. Several of them, they may not take slabs out, and so there'll be some reductions there. So the contract's going to allow for some reductions, so our exposure may be reduced.
Yes, there's 16 structures that have already been removed. And the way the contract was written, those have to be deducted at a cost of $6,200 per unit, which brings it up to $99,200 reduction thus far.
Okay. Give you one more shot. Any more comments? All right. Please vote on 16F. Motion by Preister, second by Welch.
Mr. Stinson,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Preister,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Okay, administration reports, those are being revised, but I would like to just mention a couple things. Bellevue has been doing a great job as far as social distancing, and it's because of all the volunteers and people that make things like these masks. And this one actually came from Jocelyn, who was talking earlier this evening, and her mom made those for a lot of people in Bellevue. The beam in the city hall is now, the column is now gone. So the next time you see city council chambers, you will have a clear view of who's making the laws for you. And here's a remnant of that beam. So just proof that it's gone. That's all I have. So need a motion to adjourn. Councilman Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. A brief comment about the Bellevue Rotary Club doing some of that good work you just mentioned. They're going to be donating $7,500 tomorrow to the Bellevue Food Bank. And since the food bank had been closed and wasn't able to do some fundraising, this is especially important. But I want to thank all of our residents and businesses, all the people of Bellevue who have really pulled together and done good things for their neighbors, have reached out to help the elderly and the people being affected, have offered to volunteer, have made the face mask. Bellevue strong, and Bellevue, we are strong together. And I personally send out my thank you to all of the good people being positive and doing good things in this challenging time. And with that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All of it.
Motion to adjourn by Preister, second by Welch. Any comments? All right, you can vote to leave.
Mr. Stinson,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Preister,
Yes.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Ms. Welch.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you and stay safe.